Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about how The Rock made wrestling cool again in 2024. Seems a bit odd that The Rock would make wrestling cool, of all people. They have a really great roster at the moment. I mean, Roman's on top of the card, and you have this really great talent pool that is more athletic than ever, more healthy than ever. So it seems a bit weird that The Rock, of all people, would have to rejuvenate wrestling. But we'll tell you why that's the case. So to understand why people are watching wrestling and why people are starting to come back in droves, you have to understand that to a lot of people, The Rock is their childhood. The Rock was wrestling for a lot of years. I mean, he was the face of the company. Him and Stone Cold Steve Austin were the face of the Attitude Era. And you can put Taker in there, if, or fairness, Taker was also one of the faces of the Attitude Era. But when people think of the Attitude Era, they think of one of maybe three people. They think of Stone Cold Steve Austin, Vince McMahon through the rivalry with Stone Cold, or The Rock. They're the people that people associate with the Attitude Era. So, yes. And The Rock was a massive star during the Attitude Era. For people who don't understand, I came into wrestling around 2003. But even with me coming in as a later fan in Ruthless Aggression, The Rock was a megastar and transcended wrestling even before that. Like, I may not have been watching wrestling in 2000, but I definitely know who The Rock was. That's how big The Rock was. He transcended the business. And yes, Stone Cold as well transcended the business. We have to count both of them. They both transcended the business. But The Rock did it in a way that was mainstream, that was almost a household name way. Face of the company stuff. John Cena would use a template that The Rock set out to build his career. And that's why we got things at WrestleMania, was it 30? Or no, it was WrestleMania 28 and 29. Yeah, WrestleMania 28, 29. That's why we got stuff like this, because it was very much Cena took The Rock's template. And that is a thing that we need to look at. Like, The Rock invented what is known today. I mean, you could say Hulk Hogan. In all fairness to Hulk Hogan, we can say Hulk Hogan as well was part of this. But creating the modern template of what a wrestler is, I mean, Hogan was more 80s. In terms of the Attitude Era and turn of the millennium, so The Rock was the face of that company, and you've seen it through every broadcast they did. XFL launched, and you had The Rock walk to center field and cut a promo during the first XFL game, yeah. And, you know, The Rock was their megastar. He was their John Cena. I'm trying to explain this for modern fans who may not know the impact of The Rock. And obviously they know he's an actor. They know the Hollywood implications. They may have went back and watched the catalogue. But for people who are newer to wrestling and trying to understand, okay, he's an actor, why are we so... I mean, I know he's a wrestler. This guy was equivalent, even bigger than John Cena, or even bigger than Roman Reigns, or even bigger than anyone on the roster. There was only one person who was bigger than him, and that was Stone Cold Steve Austin. But, you know, this guy was the face of... And if anyone's wondering why I got 2 copies of that, it's because one's a WWF copy, one is a WWE copy with 2 discs. So that's why I have 2 copies of Just Bring It. But as I was saying, The Rock was, for many years, the face of wrestling and the biggest star in wrestling. I mean, you count things like, obviously, this is a pretty good one. I like this artwork. You get a lot of good artwork in this one as well. But, you know, you count stuff like, he's the one who gave Brock his first title at SummerSlam 2002. And obviously, look, Brock, everyone counts Kurt Angle versus Brock at WrestleMania 19 as the big showing for Brock Lesnar. But it's just not the same as SummerSlam 2002, where Brock beat Rock for the title. And he put over him. And even the wrestling games around that era, The Rock was the face of every one of them. They always put The Rock because people wanted to play as The Rock. People wanted to be The Rock. People wanted to interact with The Rock. So, you know, Just Bring It, Shut Your Mouth, like, they all have The Rock on them. So how did The Rock make wrestling relevant again in 2024? Well, look, nostalgia comes into play. We have to talk about nostalgia. I mean, when The Rock comes back, it pops the ratings here and there, and then, he's going back to Hollywood, so he does one appearance and then he goes back to Hollywood. This isn't the case this time around. The Rock has stuck around, and he is dedicated to making the business bigger than it has been, and wanting to interact with the business, and wanting to have a match, apparently. Apparently, this match at WrestleMania is happening, even though I don't know what sort of ring shape The Rock's in. I mean, people are speculating on what kind of condition he's in. But, The Rock is committed to doing a match at WrestleMania this year, WrestleMania 40. So, look, you can count all that. But what made The Rock cool is because The Rock essentially has become stale in Hollywood. Like, not in terms of betting, like, not in terms of movies, but after Black Adam, a lot of people are a bit more cautious of The Rock now. They're a bit more... They still see the box office appeal, but the fact that a movie with The Rock starring in a DC movie didn't do more than 500 million, that put a lot of producers in a weird spot where they're like, is The Rock stale? Have we moved on from The Rock? The same thing happened to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, people become tired of something they've seen year after year, the same shtick, the same old thing. They want something fresh. So how did The Rock become fresh again? Well, the one thing he could have done is come back to wrestling. And obviously, look, after the Hawaii thing with Oprah, because that happened, a lot of people already disliked The Rock. A lot of people had a very big problem with The Rock. A lot of people had reservations about, oh, can this guy just go away? Like, he can't even donate to Hawaii. He's asking for our donations during a cost of living crisis. A lot of people were just kind of done with The Rock. So, instead of just going away and saying, okay, well, I'll still do the same thing, like Cena did for so many years. When Cena became stale in WWE, he just kind of stuck around and kept doing the same shtick and never turned heel. And that was a Vince McMahon call, apparently, because in interviews since, Cena has talked about it was Vince's call to not turn heel. So, yes, I've touched on it a bit. How did The Rock make wrestling cool again? He turned heel, and he came back to wrestling. And to have The Rock, I don't care what anyone says, to have The Rock each week on a WWE program adds to the WWE program. I don't care if you give him half the program. Give him 60 minutes or whatever. Give him whatever he wants. Because there will be more eyes on that product because The Rock is there. Because he is a Hollywood actor, so people who may not have watched him in wrestling initially will come back and watch him because he's a Hollywood actor, obviously. But most importantly, it's like a time machine back to an unknown era to the people who weren't watching wrestling back in the day, or weren't aware of The Rock, or may not have been born at that time. So they're getting to see The Rock at his peak, well, not his peak, his peak was 2000. But or even 2003, Hollywood Rock was pretty good as well. But what I'm saying is they get to see Rock, one of the best talkers on the mic, as a heel, and he was always better as a heel. Like, Rock was always a million times better as a heel. So, you see now, The Rock is in his, in a lot of ways, in a category of his own. All due respect to Roman Reigns. I freaking love what Roman's done with the business the past couple of years, and anyone who says, oh, he only wrestles once a year, he is not a proper champion. Dude, the champions are pre-booked. I get it. I know how wrestling works. Yes, people will call me a smark. But, look, I understand how wrestling works. Look, the champions are predetermined. The matches are predetermined. And honestly, having Roman wrestle once a year has actually helped Roman Reigns because it doesn't delude him. It doesn't mean, the problem that we have with so many wrestlers is that, yes, we have this one big match, and then it just becomes, okay, cool, now I can see him on Raw, now I can see him on SmackDown, now I can see him on Raw, now I can see him on SmackDown, now I can see him on NXT, now I can see him on that. And it just becomes so stale because they're everywhere. And that's, I think, what WWE have done with Roman Reigns. They have created scarcity. They have created, is he going to show up? Is he even going to defend the title? Yes, there is a part of me that wishes Roman Reigns will be on every show. I think Roman, as the champion, should be there. But to have him not there kind of speaks, okay, this guy is holding a title and he just kind of doesn't care. Like, he doesn't give a poop, you know? But he does give. And that's the thing. It's like, it's done in a way where Roman is... he's the face of the company for a reason. Because, okay, Vince got behind him really early and started pushing him. He was Vince's guy. But, on top of that, he has worked his ass off to get to a level where he can be seen as the face of the company. Remember the first program he had with John Cena? The Cena program in 2017, he could barely cut a promo against Cena, and Cena just tore him up on the mic during that in-ring segment. And said, it's the quarter promo, kid, if you want to be the big dog, you gotta learn how to do it. Like, he just completely ripped apart Roman. And then you watch that compared to the rivalry in like 2021, 2022 around Money in the Bank, and what would go into SummerSlam. He was so much better on the mic during that whole interaction, because he grew. He continuously learned. And okay, we're going a bit off topic because I'm going into the Bloodline and Roman Reigns, but let's go back to The Rock. The Rock is now a part of that storyline. And for people who might have been like, not been watching wrestling, not really been paying attention, they can instantly have an endpoint to say, to a 4-year storyline. This has been going on since 2020. Like, they can jump in now and say, okay, I'm just going to start watching because of The Rock, but The Rock's explaining, oh, you know, it's the bloodline, and he's the most dominant champion, and we're going to keep that title around Roman's waist, and I'm going to make that title go away, Seth. Like, people who don't watch wrestling can come into wrestling now and watch the modern product with The Rock on it, and The Rock, in a lot of ways, is like a reset point to wrestling. So, people who haven't watched in decades, and I'm talking about the people who left in droves after the Attitude Era during the time when John Cena became the face of the company. The people who left in droves then are slowly starting to make their way back. I mean, I watch a YouTuber by the name of Tyrone Magnus, and one of my first videos I ever watched from him was the John Cena prank call reaction, which he's since deleted, but that was one of my first interactions. And then for many years, like, he'd done a few wrestling reactions, but he just stopped caring about wrestling because to him it did become stale. And in my view, it did become stale as well. But he's doing wrestling reactions again, and I never thought I would see wrestling reactions from him. But this is what I mean. Older wrestling fans are coming back in droves because The Rock is a nostalgic act, and people understand he's nostalgic. There's a reason why The Rock came out on SmackDown to his 2003 Hollywood Rock theme. It wasn't because, oh cool, we'll just further this storyline a bit. It was because he knew nostalgia sells, and he knows that he is a nostalgic act, and he knows that people are watching him because of the nostalgia they get from watching The Rock. Not Dwayne Johnson. Not Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Not board member Dwayne Johnson. None of this stuff. Why they came back is because The Rock is their childhood. And that's why people are coming back. That's why people are choosing to come back in droves, because someone like that is now so much more toned on the mic. He has all this acting experience, and yes, we're aware they're scripting his promos. I'm aware of that. I know they're scripting all his promos. I know it's all scripted. But the delivery is just as important as the scripting. And you might say, oh, but go ahead and cut a promo in the middle of the ring, and you don't need scripting, and just use dot points. The Rock works so much better as a scripted wrestler, and you might say, but that's so insincere, but they write it in a way that makes it sincere, and the delivery, The Rock does one of the best deliveries in wrestling, in entertainment, actually. So, we've gone a bit off topic. Let's bring it back. How has The Rock made wrestling cool again? It's because The Rock is back. If that makes sense. The Rock has made it cool again by being there. And because he's such a nostalgic act, because people associate it with their childhoods, because people remember how good The Rock was and want to see more from The Rock, and he's there on a weekly basis, and he's trying to make wrestling cool again. That is, in essence, why people are coming back. And I know, a lot of wrestling fans went over to UFC after 2003. A lot of people went to UFC, I get it. UFC is where a lot of old school wrestling fans are right now. That's what they choose to watch. But you can't tell me that a UFC fan over there is sitting over there and saying, I don't watch wrestling anymore. I bet when The Rock walked out and started delivering these heel promos, they were a bit like, okay, The Rock's back. Okay, he's doing this again. I might not go back over there just yet. I want to see how this plays out, but I guarantee those older wrestling fans are looking at The Rock. Even if they're not watching the program, or they're not watching SmackDown, they're not watching Raw, they're not watching any of this stuff. Look at the YouTube views. Look at the Facebook views. Look at all that stuff with The Rock on it. Look at his Instagram. Look at all this other stuff where The Rock is getting views. He's one of the... He's the most, as he said, he's the most famous American celebrity, or the most famous American in general, on social media or in the world. Like, I don't know the exact terminology he used, but that is the truth. The Rock is on that level. So obviously I've rented on a bit right now, and yes, I cannot stress enough how cool it is to have The Rock back in wrestling. Like, The Rock, the Great One, the People's Champ, the jabroni, eating, pie eating, trail blazing, eyebrow raising. You know, it's like, this guy is, to a lot of people, wrestling. I mean, look, he is an actor as well. He is delivering lines that are written for him. But the delivery of the lines are so good and so much better than everyone else that even written, he can still destroy people who are not writing promos, who are just cutting it off the top of their head. He is destroying, like, the template in a way. Because for so many years it was just like, Cena's reading a script, it's so robotic. Well, the delivery is just as important, and Rock is one of the best at it. And also, it's just really cool to have The Rock back. I personally think there's going to be a stunner at WrestleMania. I think Austin's coming to stun The Rock. I think that's what's going to happen. We'll see if this holds up. We'll see if my prediction comes to light. But I think there's a few things that could happen. I think Austin comes back and stuns The Rock at some point. Or The Undertaker does something like... I can picture, like, the bloodline going over in night one. So I can picture Roman and Rock going over in night one. I can picture that happening. I can picture them pinning Cody on night one. The Rock pinning Cody, or Roman pinning Cody on night one. I can picture that. And then Bloodline night two, when all the Bloodline get involved, I can picture Cody saying, I got a few friends of my own, and then Stone Cold comes down, or The Undertaker comes down, or, you know what, Mick Foley's talking about one more match. I don't know how close he is with that, but imagine if we get one more segment with Mick Foley and The Rock at WrestleMania in the ring facing off. Imagine that. I mean, I don't think Foley would be able to do too much, but Foley was never athletic to begin with. He was more the hardcore wrestler. He was more, you want to see him hit people with chairs and, you know. So I think they're going to say they have a few friends of their own. I think that's where we're going with this. It's just great to have the Great One back, the Brahma Bull, and yes, he has all these names. I keep going through them all, but yes, it's really good to have The Rock back in wrestling, and I'm just loving. This is the thing. Wrestling has been stale for so many years now, to where it's just like, okay, it just all kind of blends together, and Raw and the pay-per-views have nothing to separate them, and, you know, it just kind of all feels the same. I guarantee you, when SmackDown's on now and The Rock shows up for it, it feels, even for the opening segment, if they just use him in the opening segment, that separates it from everything else. It separates it from 5 months ago, 6 months ago, whatever. And that's another reason why they brought back CM Punk, because he does move the needle, and he does put people in seats. It makes wrestling seem different, and it makes the product seem different, and if he's on Raw, it makes Raw seem different to SmackDown. You can watch CM Punk on Raw, you can watch Roman Reigns on SmackDown when he shows up. But that's what the thing, it's like, it separates it from everything else, and it makes it feel different. I think they personally need to go back to having unique sets for both shows, but that's a whole other dilemma with wrestling, and we'll talk about that at a later point. So let me end on this. Why do people think wrestling is cool again? Nostalgia? And The Rock is so damn good on the mic, and he was wrestling's person at first. He was always a wrestler first and at heart, like, and he'll say NFL as well. He did do NFL before this, but, well, not NFL. He did the football, gridiron, whatever you call it, the one that's not NFL, the leg below it, college football, or whatever it was. But the fact that you get a time capsule in a way to a forgotten era, the chance to see this guy on the mic right there, the fact that you get to see him in 2024 delivering promos and on SmackDown every other week, The Rock Show. SmackDown was started because of The Rock. That's why it's called The Rock Show, or, you know, SmackDown. That was a term that was The Rock. That was his show. It was built for The Rock. They took the term SmackDown, and turned it into a show because The Rock was so popular. So how dare you come on The Rock Show? Like, he said that during Raw as well when he used to do Raw, but SmackDown actually was The Rock Show. So, yeah. My first time watching The Rock was actually I started watching in late 2003, so my first time seeing The Rock was that lead up to WrestleMania 20, where he came out and helped Foley go against Evolution, Rock and Stock Connection versus Evolution. That was my first real time watching The Rock as a wrestler. But obviously I had seen Walking Tall and Welcome to the Jungle and his other movies, so I had seen those. I think Welcome to the Jungle has a different name in America. I think it's called like The Getaway or something. I don't know exactly, but yeah, Welcome to the Jungle, that movie with Sean William Scott. That's the movie I'm referring to. Yeah, obviously The Rock was still around in 2004. He was coming out, he did the segment with the Raw Diva Search, and he did that thing with Coach where he cut a promo on Coach, and yeah, it's actually kind of sad that Coach won't come back to wrestling because of what wrestling did to him a couple of years ago. Like, he came back and then they kind of messed it all up. But imagine how cool the interview segments would be. Or even with Lillian, can we get Lillian back? But, you know, that wouldn't go by modern standards, some of the stuff Rock said to Lillian. But I'm going to wrap it there. I've talked for a while. I'm doing this with the back lens, so I don't know how this video is going to turn out. It could be out of focus. We don't know. I'm just trying with the back lens because the front lens, I find, it doesn't have great quality. So I'm trying with the back lens for once. I don't even know if this thing's recording, but we're trying out something new, guys. And then tell me what it looks like, because, well, this is the thing. I do watch my own videos as well, so I try to review the product and understand what works, what doesn't. But I've talked for long enough. Thank you for watching. I hope you've taken something away from this video, because I feel like I've ranted for probably 10, 20 odd minutes, how long I've been going. But yes, The Rock being back in wrestling is really, really, really cool. It's really cool to have The Rock back. And I'm just loving every moment we get with The Rock until he goes away again, or whatever happens. Like, he's on the TKO board now, so I don't think he's going to go away for long, but you know, between WrestleMania and SummerSlam, I think he has a movie booked in, so The Rock will probably go away for a couple of months. And we just need to appreciate anything we get with The Rock these days. Even if it's heel, if you want to boo him, boo him. If you want to cheer him, cheer him. Like, this is the great thing about wrestling. And great thing about fans. You can choose how you want to receive The Rock. So yeah, thank you for watching, and until the next one, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. What else do YouTubers say? I feel like I'm so new to this thing. I'm trying to figure out what YouTubers actually say. Leave a comment, obviously, what was your first interaction with The Rock? What was your first time seeing The Rock? Was it during the WWF days, that big logo there? Or did you see him now? Or did you see him during the program of John Cena? Or is this your first time seeing The Rock as a wrestler? Do you only know him as an actor? Tell me your interactions with The Rock. How do you see The Rock? How did you first find out about The Rock? Tell me about it, guys, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out, and I hope you enjoyed watching.